I'm just gonna assume that I pressed the right button there. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Monday Morning Coffee. This is a special episode for quite a few reasons. One potential reason you might notice is because there's a new angle now. I moved the desk, so I was originally like right here, and I was looking and typing like this, but now it's against the wall on this side. And it makes the area around here a lot freer because it was not before. And I also kind of like the single a lot more. There's no, the thing that Zito complained about with the lamp. Although there is still, if I move my head, you can see the fan. But that one, I mean, the good news about that is that my head is pretty much always here because this is center frame. So in a way, you never see it anyway. And there is a little bit of weirdness with the lighting where there's just like chiaroscuro effect where like I have like part in darkness and then part in light. But I'll figure all that out later. Before I dive too deep into this, I don't want to forget about the very basic, extremely basic task that I always have to do whenever I start one of these. The first one is checking the audio. I'm just going to look at the thing to make sure that the sound is right. Okay, I see the thing. The bars are going up and down. That's a good sign. I'm going to say that counts. Another thing that might be weird. Well, let me send out the tweet first. And my favorite stuff of 2022. This is one of those days where it doesn't really feel like I'm actually streaming. But since I've been live for 2 minutes, so I gotta get into the feeling of it. Because sometimes, I don't know how many of you have done this before, like the whole streaming thing. There are periods where if you let them get to you, you will just forget that you're streaming and you'll just like talk. Well, you won't talk because you don't talk normally. You'll act exactly as you do, like as a normal person. And it gets very weird if you like look at yourself like just doing your normal stuff. You kind of look strange. So I don't really want to do that. But this is a Monday morning coffee, which means I do have a coffee, and I will be talking until the coffee is over. However, oh, look at that, I tweeted and everything. However, this Monday morning coffee specifically is rather special because I will be doing the State of the Union for 2023, and I'm not talking about the government White House State of the Union. I get that question every single time. It is not that. It is something that I've been doing since I want to say 2014, where I go over my goals for across all my projects. So originally, this started in 2014, back with my original blog and my original YouTube channel. And the idea behind that was let me inform people of all the different plans I have for that YouTube channel and that blog. And it kind of accelerated over time. One of the things that we add on after that first one was, okay, let's look at all the stuff I planned out that last year and how much of it I actually did. Because a lot of times you'll notice that a lot of the things that you plan on doing for that given year you don't do. Some of them you surprisingly do, and some of them are just like left field stuff that you didn't even anticipate at all. I'll be going all over that for 2023. So going over the State of the Union for 2022, there was one. I guess I can boot this up. Let me switch cameras. We're actually going to be on this camera. Jesus, what the fuck is wrong with it? Okay, no, this is actually pretty normal. Oh, no, it's not normal. It's the stretching from last time. Let me see if I can undo a little bit of the stretching. There's nothing weird up there. You see like the picture I took in like college, and that's it. And you can't even see that technically because my mouse isn't recording for some reason. But if you're curious about the last one I did of these, I think it was the first one I did that was all video. It's this one. It's the featured video on the featured video on the old channel. By the way, I hope you like the slide format because I didn't change it. And I found the slide deck because last year I did a slide deck because it was like my first time doing it visually or like over video because usually I wrote in blog posts. Let me see if I can find the very first one. That would be fun. Oh, thank God I stopped this so that you couldn't see anything. So my original blog was called astukagaming.blogspot.com. We're going to go down a trip down memory lane to explain it to everybody because this is new. I need to make sure that people know what the State of the Union is in the first place. I want to say the first one was 2014, which means it'd be in December. Was it 2015? Did I do it in the? Oh, jeez. So this is okay. So this is the State of the Union for 2016, which means that I did do one before this. But let me go to the one because the last text one. Here's my website, by the way. The last text one that I did was it had the links to everything. I want to see what the well, the first one was 2014. Oh, but it wasn't called the State of the Union yet. So this is the very first one I did, July 20th, 2014. It is a status update of all the projects and stuff that I'm working on. And then in 2015, I think is when we officially called it State of the Union, and it's been called State of the Union ever since. The 2022 one is the first video one. I don't think 2021 was video. No, it wasn't. So 2022 was the first video, and now we're doing 2023, which is even more special because it's the first live streamed video one. And you see, I told you, I have the same slides. It's the same fucking slide deck. Hold on, look. See? Boom, 2023. Boom, 2022. Although I'm noticing that he's up in the top corner, and I realize he's like that because I do have something. Can I control this? I do have something right there. But, I mean, you know that I'm at Astukri. It's the name of the goddamn channel. Who cares? It's fine. I don't think there's anything important on this side. Spoilers! No, I don't think there's anything important on the side. We'll start. This is a VOD check. So for the VOD, around 8 minutes is where the State of the Union starts. I'm going to cut these up a little bit. I won't have them as featured videos because I figure most people don't care about this sort of stuff. But for posterity's sake and also for the website where people do care about it, I do want to have a VOD, an unlisted VOD for there, so 8 minutes. Welcome. Welcome to the State of the Union 2023. This is, God, so we've been doing this since 2014, so I want to say 9 years? Although we skipped 2 years in there, so it's actually been seven actual State of the Unions. But 9 years worth. So the next year will be the 10th anniversary. That'll be very special. But for now, it's the 9th. State of the Union 2023. At this point, most of you know how this goes. Then we will start with the 2022 in review. So the video that I made at the beginning of this year about all the stuff that I was going to do, all the stuff I had plans for. We're going to be reviewing all that content to see what I actually did and what I actually did not do. For the 2023 focuses, that will be the major part of this State of the Union, going over my plans for this year. And then finally, we'll be moving on to favorites of 2022, which if you're watching this as a VOD, that will be a separate video, more than likely. But if you're on the live stream, then it'll be the same thing. We just continue directly after this. So I'm going to start with the 2022 in review. I have this in 3 different columns. They are so everything in the first 2 columns are stuff that we had planned. The third column is stuff that was not planned, that happened, and that we pivoted around, as they say. So of the things that we planned to do in 2022, and we actually did, going down that list, we said we were going to bring back the podcast, continuing the podcast. Still not really a podcast. If anything, this show is a podcast. This Monday Morning Coffee, because this one is literally a show where I just talk. I'm going to bring this up a little bit, by the way, because I see it cuts off just slightly. If anything, this show is the podcast, because it's just me talking and I have a coffee and blah, blah, blah. You get the gimmick at this point. Those podcasts are more audio summaries of all the different blog posts, which work out fairly well, and that podcast is pretty successful. I don't know who's watching it. I don't really get any insight on the audience. I don't think there's a lot of crossover between the core audience and people who are watching that stuff. It's just random people on Spotify who Spotify recommends that show to them, I guess. Excuse me. But it's been successful, and I plan on keeping it up. I still embed the links to those podcasts for their respective blog posts, and there will be more coming. I had them all scheduled out until March 2023, and holy shit, for the first time ever, March 2023 is coming around. It's coming in close. So I do have to... I did make some more into, I want to say, June. And those ones are a lot more just I'm saying exactly word for word what that blog post is, which makes sense because at this point they really are just audio readings or audio summaries of the content that is in those blog posts. Another thing I promised that I would do in 2022 is TikTok. I expanded this into short content just in general, because now it's not just TikTok, it's YouTube Shorts, it's Instagram Reels, and I have been doing content on those. They have been relatively successful on the, so far there was only 2 channels that we're using. One is for JBR, which is the main company, the company that I run, JBR Holdings. It's their YouTube short TikTok sort of thing, and then there's this channel, which is still mostly funny haha content, and that's all that's been getting the shorts, which I think makes sense, and I would like to continue that, but that's something that we didn't start at the very beginning of the year and has now kind of developed into a specific process I would like to keep going into the future. Streaming, I said I would stream more. I now stream regularly on Mondays and Fridays. Today is Monday, and it's Monday Morning Coffee. And then on Fridays, we do the Friday, the so-called Friday fun stream, which is just me streaming whatever. There might be more updates on both of these, on streaming and on short content, when we get to focuses, but I'm not getting to the focuses just yet. Another thing I promised was to finish the book, Boys and Girls Part 1. It is done. It is coming out on December 21st. However, right now, today, you can read the first 2 chapters for free on my website, jacob-robinson.com, or I guess astukery.com might be easier because that's the name of this YouTube channel, astukery.com /blog. I think it's probably the easiest way to get to it, and then you can see the first 2 that have been released. Those are the first 2 free chapters, and there's going to be more as time goes on, but the book is officially out on December the 21st. And that's a Gumroad release, so that's a PDF, and then on Amazon Kindle, it's coming out later. But that's how that's all set up, and we finished it. I said it was going to be finished in 2022, and I even said it was going to be finished in December of 2022, and that's actually what happened, which is remarkable. Absolutely incredible. I did not expect that I was actually going to be able to finish it, but right in time, we got it done. So that's good. I'm hoping to use that energy for future projects, which, like I said, no spoilers until we get to 2023. What did we not do, though? What did we not do in 20 that we said we were going to do in 2022 and we ended up not doing in 2022? Well, the first thing is the publication stuff, the weird pseudo-academic content. Those videos are still on the old main channel, where I kind of dived into a lot of the content that I talked about in the blog posts. stuff relating to topics like psychology, business, entertainment. Sorry, no, psychology, business, and technology. Those are the three keystones of that blog, and those are the content that I went over in that series. It's not that I didn't like it, it's just that it kind of got weird. Because as we focused on, as we began to focus more on art and media and everything like that, especially in relation to JBR, that stuff became a little bit less relevant. And I figured if there was ever a time where I did want to talk in depth about a subject that was really interesting to me, that may not have a blog post coming up, or it does have a blog post coming up, but it's not out for a while, I figured that the best place for me to do that sort of content was in this show, in Monday Morning Coffee. So I figured, we don't really have to do the publications. It was kind of weird in context, in hindsight, having these like 20 to 30 page research articles on given theoretical philosophical topics that were on the website. I don't think they fit very well with the full scope of what I'm doing. I do want to have a good mix of serious content and funny content, but that one kind of went to the realm of, okay, now you're just trying to be you're trying to be way more scientific and academic than you actually are. So I don't know if those were a great fit, and maybe I'll write like books on that sort of stuff, but I don't think I'm so attached to that sort of content that I would really need to do that, other than like occasional mentions in the shows like Monday Morning Coffee or on the blog posts themselves. The next thing we didn't do, these little things. So I did say, to be fair, in 2022 there was actually going to be 2 books coming out, which is absolutely, I don't know why I said that. That is insane. I did not need to have that many. That was wild. I could do like maybe half a book a year at my true full potential and ability. I don't think that I don't think that 2 books might be too much. But there was going to originally be Boys and Girls Part 1, which was a full, well, I think at that point it was still Boys and Girls. We didn't split into 2 parts because the book got too long. Originally it was just Boys and Girls was going to come out, and then These Little Things was a short story collection, the next short story collection after Are You Different, which came out in 2019. And so we were going to continue all this stuff. A lot of my main focus ended up being in Boys and Girls and wrapped up in that and trying to finish that. Because of that, the short stories got put to the wayside. And in addition, one particular short story on that list ended up expanding to the point where I got enough work into it that it could be its own novel or own full-size book. And that could be just another installment. So I didn't feel like I needed to write the short story collection anymore. So I kind of just put the whole short story collection to the wayside. And I was like, we're not doing this right now. And I instead decided to focus on decided to focus on Boys and Girls, and then that one particular story, but not so much the whole thing. So that got thrown to the wayside on that one, and that was the explanation for that. The next thing is Web 3. That one didn't age well. Jesus. Probably a good thing that this didn't make the list of things I did. In 2022, I shouldn't say in 2022, in the beginning of 2021, which is when I wrote this, when I made this wrote out my plan for the next year and started talking about it, Web3, and I guess you can call it crypto because it's all the same damn thing, it seemed to have a lot more potential than it does now. It was before we really had NFTs and people were just kind of talking about like, oh, could you make this like alternate sort of internet that's a lot more decentralized, that kind of has a unifying identity platform tied to these wallets, these keys, and that idea was really cool. And then over the course of 2022, we saw NFTs, we saw a huge crypto collapse based on fraud, which I mean anybody could have really expected. It wasn't super surprising. I think instead of working towards the benefit of Web3, I think I wrote like 4 or 5 anti-crypto pieces in the past year. So that kind of burned my bridge with the Web3 situation going on. Just because I lost more and more faith in that ever becoming like a real serious thing. And you could draw parallel. Well, I guess one thing that we did end up working on that was not on this was, AI stuff like Stable Diffusion or art generation, which I do think has a very, very obvious tangible value. Web3 never really did. So I never really tried to focus on any of that stuff in the end. And I still think there are good benefits that could come out of Web3, but not enough to really, not enough to like work on, right? Because this is like projects and stuff that I want to work on. It's not really something that I'm interested in working on. Maybe just like paying attention to the space and maybe, buying and supporting stuff like Gitcoin, which seems to still be pretty cool. These decentralized grants that you give out to people who are working on cool projects. Ideas like that is like, oh, that's the original vision of this whole Web3 or crypto thing that was still really cool. But most of it just, no. No, not at this point. Not gonna happen. The next thing was additional distribution. So I said specifically that I was going to start doing more distribution for the books. So right now they're only on Gumroad and Amazon. And of course there's a lot of platforms which you could buy books on. I was going to start expanding into those other markets. And in addition for, this is a deep cut, Boys Don't Cry, or BDC, which is my Redbubble store, I was going to expand it beyond just Redbubble. And I decided to do neither of these things. For the books, for JBR, it was like I'm a one-man shop, and Gumroad and Amazon hits like 90% of my target audience. So the idea of me going in and trying for these other platforms, even though I really don't need to try for these other platforms. I would still like to do physical books at some points, but I need a good distribution network for that, and honestly, I'm fine with just ebooks for now. So I didn't really think that was necessary. And then for BDC, it was just weird because a lot of that is just kind of bootleg content that I just put up because I want a shirt on it, and nobody else has ever made an official shirt with that. So I'm making that shirt for myself. Hey, there's one. I'm wearing one right now. Look at that. It's my Azumanga Daioh shirt. They didn't make this. This is. I think I scraped this from a wallpaper thread, and then I turned it into a shirt. I didn't make this shirt, but I had to make it for them. But that's obviously not stuff that you really want to distribute too widely or make too big, like your business. I wouldn't really call that a business. That's just something where like I want a shirt. Can I just make my own and just ship it to myself? That's kind of what that is. That's the main focus there. I keep coughing. I also keep hearing this weird shaking, squeaking noise, and I don't know if it's the desk or something. Yeah, I hear something. There's just like crickets in the wall, or like cockroaches. I don't know what that is. Hopefully it doesn't pick up on the mic. I doubt that picks up on the mic because it's very quiet. But it keeps distracting me mid-thought, which is why that it might be the people upstairs or something. I don't know. So, with that stuff all in mind, the next thing on this list is the surprises. The things that I did not expect to have happened this year. So they were not mentioned on the 2022 State of the Union. The first one is this channel blowing up. And that was genuinely, purely not something that I really wanted or cared about or had any intention on. But it happened, and now we're all here, and that was all very strange. For the full context, my original channel used to be a Stukery, and I had a second channel that was a joke channel called a Stukery O. And Stukery O is where I uploaded live stream VODs. Whenever I did live streams, I would upload the VODs there. It would also just be silly videos of whatever I found interesting at the time. There's a lot of like Blade and Sorcery content, for example, where I play that game, but I've never really streamed it, nor necessarily had the interest in streaming it. At some point, I uploaded a Jerma clip compilation. The famous live streamer Jerma985. I uploaded a compilation of his clips that I very much enjoyed, but it was hard for me to find on given because there's a billion of these clip compilations. I just made one for myself because I wanted to have some stuff that I could easily get to. And that video blew up. That now has like 215,000 views as of recording. And of course, I had to follow it up, so I made two more. Those ones blew up also. And of course, now there's one that's scheduled for Christmas Day at 6 a.m. Christmas morning, bright and early. And I will probably keep doing those into perpetuity. But in the meantime, I decided, okay, this channel blew up. Let me hijack it back. Let me take it back. So that's exactly what I did. I got back on this channel, and I decided to make it my main channel, which felt kind of weird because none of this really has to do with Jerma, nor does it really have to do with the content that I was doing before Jerma. Originally, I was just going to keep the content that I was doing before all that, because I felt like that made a good amount of sense. But then I was like, okay, well, here's another way to look at this. I don't have any reach on these other sites. I'm sorry, I don't have any reach on this other channel because there's just not that many people on there. There's a ton of people coming into here. What if I just started cold turkey doing exactly what I do now and just filtered all those people out? So, like, for example, if I have a channel, the old channel has 70 subscribers, right? 70 subscribers. Well, it's hard for me to get, like, more of them, right? Because it's kind of locked into 70 subscribers. But on this channel, I had 600 subscribers. And so from there, I could say, like, okay, there's an audience. But then if I start doing my own content, it will fall down. But then it'll fall down to like 300. So I have 70 on the first channel and then 300, but I still have 300 on the old channel, on the new channel. So the new channel is still popular and the new channel is still their place. So that was my logic for doing that, for hijacking my own content, which is weird. I don't know, but I'll probably still keep doing the Jerma videos because who fucking cares, man? They're Jerma clip compilations. If they're funny, if I think of a funny title, if I think of a funny thumbnail, and then I get enough content, they just come out. And that will be my truce to all of the people who watch this just for the Jerma content. I'll be like, you can mute the channel on everything else, and then just like highlight keyword Jerma, and then you can just get those videos. I don't know, but I'm trying to keep the content towards this sort of stuff, and then filter out all the people who aren't interested, because then I still have more of a reach than I did on the other channel. I figure that still makes a lot of sense. That's one thing. That's one surprise that happened. The second surprise is that I have a real marketing budget now because I have a real job. Yeah, that's right. I don't just record these videos on Monday and Friday and like that's all I do all day. I do have a real job, and that real job affords me, and with the combination of having an actual business behind all this, it affords me the ability to have a budget for stuff like marketing that I can then put to, well, maybe not these videos, because I don't think these videos are marketable. But in other content, like, the book that's coming out on December 21st, Boys and Girls Part 1, stukery.com/blog. or the blog itself, or JBR itself. All that stuff is things that I can market. And so, having that actual marketing budget allows me to do stuff that I wouldn't have dreamed of doing back when all this started in like 2014, where I can now, put some actual money in and promote posts or promote content or set up, ads and things. And having, Jesus, sorry, you can't actually see that, but I opened something up. Whoops, ignore that. Spoilers. So I can do all this sort of stuff that I couldn't do before. And so that's pretty cool. And I hope to use that money wisely as we move forward. Let me take a break to sip the coffee. I keep wanting to cough or clear my throat. I apologize for that. And then one thing that is also on the surprise list that, is kind of perpetually on the surprise list for every single year is that there are now many more new projects in the pipeline because my brain never turns off. I never have writer's block, which is more problematic than you would think it is because it means I am constantly thinking of new stuff. And that new stuff, always, because it's the new shiny thing, takes priority over the content that I was already making. And that's not good. And I'm trying not to do that, actually. I'm trying to stay focused on a given set of stuff, and that's kind of the key word New Year's resolution for this upcoming year. Speaking of this upcoming year, let's go to the next year. Let's start talking about 2023. Let's get this show on the road, because it's been 30 minutes, and this is going to end up being a 2-hour-long live show, because I still need to do favorites after this. So 2023 is a shaping year. In the State of the Union for 2022, I mentioned that it was an experimental year, and I said that the way that these years tend to go, now that we've been doing this for long enough, is there tends to be years of experimentation, which means starting a bunch of new projects and trying things out and figuring out what fits, followed by shaping years, which is taking all those projects, seeing what worked, keeping those ones going, seeing what didn't work, shutting those off. So if last year was an experimental year, of course this year was a shaping year, which means that this video might not be as exciting in terms of the new ideas that I have set up, but overall that's probably a good thing because, like I said, we're on a time schedule here, so. Oh god, Jesus. Alright, so, and then I made it a little bit simpler this time. I made a timeline of all the things that I'm trying to work on, which you'll notice isn't that many things, which is good. Like I said, I'm trying not to work on the next shiny thing. I'm trying to just stay relatively focused. And this is what I am working on in terms of dates, barring any serious barring any serious changes to the schedule or big surprises like I've mentioned before. And of course there's going to be big surprises. Some of these are more optimistic than others, but let me go down the list, and this is in no particular order. I probably should have put these in an order so it's easier for me to talk to them, but not really. The first thing that's on here is Baby Bird, which is a new book that is coming out. It is the book that I mentioned during the These Little Things when I said These Little Things got canceled basically because there was a big story that kind of came out of that and it turned into its own book. That was this one. I don't have too much to talk about in terms of the plot or the story or anything like that, but what I am going to say is that the current plan is for this to kind of be the intermission between Boys and Girls Part 1 and Boys and Girls Part 2. So the idea is that, of course, Boys and Girls Part 1, can you guess it, guys? It's coming out December 21st, 2022, and you can learn more if you go to astukery.com/boys-girls, or you can check out the new free chapters by going to astukery.com/blog. The idea is that once Part 1 comes out, the next thing that I am most focused on is Baby Bird and releasing Baby Bird, and that's kind of the intermission point. I mean, the stories aren't related, but it's like, in terms of my writing, it's like a brief intermission, then we go into Boys and Girls Part 2. I currently have that set for Q2 of 2023, so probably June. That's pretty aggressive. I want to say so. There's three acts in that story, and I am relatively at the beginning of Act Two in terms of writing. So, saying whether or not, I think that sound is coming from the fact that I keep leaning on this table. By the way, I'm starting to notice that. I'll try to keep my hands off it. So, considering that I'm still in the writing phase and considering that I'm still pretty early on in the story, June could happen if I really tried. If I wrote like a page every single day from today onwards, I could probably hit June 2023. But if you know anything remotely about me, you know that's not going to happen. So, probably going to be delayed from June 2023, but that's like my aggressive date. And speaking of aggressive dates, an extremely aggressive date on here is Boys and Girls Part 2 coming out this time in 2023. So saying that Boys and Girls Part 2 is going to come out in December 21st or somewhere around there on 2023 in comparison to Part 1, which is coming out on December 1st, 2022, Stookery.com/boys-girls. That's probably not going to happen at all. That's going to need another year easily, especially if I'm writing Baby Bird as an intermission. I don't think that's going to happen. But I wanted to put it on there just so that people knew I was writing it, right? Because obviously, part 1 is part 1, part 2 is part 2, and of course that's the full story. Once part 2 comes out, it's done. So I wanted to put it out there that yes, I am working on it, but the main focus is going to be on Baby Bird, and then once Baby Bird is done, Boys and Girls Part 2 will be worked on. I think if I had to put a bit more of a realistic spin on these, I would say Baby Bird maybe this time at 2023, so more Q4 2023, and Boys and Girls Part 2 will be December 2024, sometime around there. But I'm keeping my aggressive dates to give me some sort of deadline, and that's why we're on this. The next thing on this list is the Apollo Wind Down. So I have had a lot of ideas out here in the past, whether it be Shauna, which is something that I worked on pretty deeply into 2020. Apollo, which was the free educational resources guide that I worked on after Shauna. Vox Jobuli, which is a real deep cut, that was 2018. But I've decided that I'm just one person. I gotta be focused. That's the theme of a shaping year. So I decided, you know what? We're gonna start winding down on Apollo. What's going to be different is that for Shauna, I shut Shauna down hard. Like, Shauna is kind of just done, and you can't really see anything about Shauna out there on the internet. And that's just because Shauna was in a very incomplete state. And the whole thing about that was like a subscription service. So it was like, oh, you pay a monthly fee to get all this content. But if I wasn't working on the content, if it was completely shut down and there was barely any content to begin with, and probably should not keep up a course or a subscription on that. That's probably not a good idea. So that one I shut down. I made all the courses free, so you can still see them. All that content is free, but it's not like there's not like a page or like anything like that. It's just kind of in the archives along with all those like old videos that I made. It's the same sort of archive. I don't think it's in the same exact place, but it is in an archive somewhere. For Apollo, the nice thing about Apollo was that Apollo was kind of a quote-unquote nonprofit model. I have to make sure I'm doing quotes here because it is not a nonprofit organization or a charity organization, just a nonprofit business model where I put that stuff out for free, and you can donate to me if you want. And I feel like that's more cohesive to, okay, I can just keep this as it is pretty much, and it'll still make a lot of sense. So what I'm doing here is I still have a couple more Apollo projects in the pipeline. And the focus for 2023 is going to be finishing those projects up to the best of my ability, and then just leaving it alone. And anything that's on that site stays on that site, and it keeps going into perpetuity. I won't be paying any fees on it. There won't be a domain. I don't think there is a... No. I still pay for the domain right now, but I'll be cutting out the domain. So it'll just be, instead of apollo.co, it'll just be apollo.wordpress.com. But all that content will still be there, because I can still keep that there. One thing that will not be winding down, that will be doubling down on, is the JBR courses. And this is actually nice that we worked on Shauna before, because Shauna kind of gave me insight into how to best do these. For the JBR courses, that's part of JBR Holdings. So, of course, the big focus of JBR is providing sort of business consulting for creatives. And a big part of that is the courses. So kind of self-service modular courses. So let me give you some examples. There's ones about building a blog from 0 to 1,000 followers or whatever, or how to set up an iterative release schedule for your video game, or stuff like that, various different specific topics in the field of creatives that you can learn, go through this course and learn a significant amount about. Originally with Shauna, all these courses were individual courses that you could buy. I decided that model's not very good. I decided instead it's going to be one single yearly subscription, and it's going to be relatively cheap. I'm not gonna charge you $599 for a single course, because I don't think this is $599 for a single course level of content. And the people in the Entrepreneurship Council in my university will say that I'm taking myself too hard, but I'm pretty sure at that point it's fraud. So I'm trying not to do that. But it is real content, and it is stuff that we're really proud of and trying to help people with. So it'll be a yearly subscription. Probably, if I had to guess, we don't have a price on that yet. But if I had to guess, it'll probably be pretty close to a Stukuri Premium. So Stukuri Premium is $70 a year? So it'll probably be pretty close to that. $70 a year, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on the content and how much we actually build out. But that's not officially released, because right now we only have one finished course, and calling it a JBR Courses subscription and having only one course seems to be a little bit misleading. So we're trying to finish the second course, and then at that point we can release it and then continuously work on those courses. So that's all set up there. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is streaming, doing this sort of stuff. We're going to keep doing it. That's right. Going to keep it consistent, especially got to now that we have an actual somewhat real audience. So the idea here, and I'm pretty sure it's the desk. I swear it's the desk, because every time I don't have my hands on the desk, I don't hear it. Streaming. Monday Morning Coffee still going on. Speaking of Monday Morning Coffee, let me take a sip. Oh, that's some good coffee. And then the Friday Fun Stream stuff. I'm thinking maybe, and this is part, I'm not promising, but I might open up a Wednesday slot. And the Wednesday slot will be just whatever. So pretty much another Friday Fun Stream slot. I hate calling it Friday Fun Stream. I'm not giving it a special name anymore. Monday Morning Coffee, now that hits. That's some solid stuff. Friday Fun Stream, I don't like that one. Especially if Wednesday is kind of the same thing. They don't have to have weird names. They don't all have to have weird names. I don't like that. So I might open up a Wednesday slot as well, but I have to think about that one. I need to make sure I have enough time for it. I definitely have enough time on Mondays and Fridays, but Wednesdays might be a struggle. The only reason I want to open up that Wednesday slot is because I have so many ideas of games and other stuff that I want to stream, that if I kept to only streaming that sort of content on Fridays, I would have my full schedule lined up until 2024. And that's not going to be good. So if I could open up a Wednesday slot where I'm streaming on Wednesdays as well, that would be cool. And then I could do more of that content and it'll be more set up. But I'm not promising anything because I have to make sure that I have everything planned and I'm still shaking the desk, god damn it. But that's all stuff I would be interested in doing as well. You know what would have been smart? I should have changed to jacob-robinson.com to stukery.com because that's now a website you can go to. And in fact, if you were interested in going to that website, you could go to stukery.com/boys-girls to learn about the new novel, the new book that's coming out, Boys and Girls Part 1, on December 21st, 2022. If you are a Stukery Premium subscriber, you will get that for free. But if you just want to buy just that book, then it's $15, and you just go on the Gumroad site, and there's a link there. If you go to stukery.com/boys-girls, or if that doesn't work, I guess jacob-robinson.com/boys-girls. But that one's a little bit longer. Anyway, speaking of which, I'm also working on additional Boys and Girls content to kind of tide between the two parts. Also to grow some, marketing towards the Boys and Girls series or franchise, if you will, even though it's just 2 parts and it's actually technically supposed to only be 1 book. It just got too big. I've been doing a lot of art with the AI generation stuff, so a lot of that is on the websites. There's a wiki. There's wallpapers that I made using that art. I intend to make it like an art book, which I think would be kind of cute. Of all the stuff, all the visual content that I made for that sort of thing. And then also an audiobook. Since I know audiobooks are big, we are going to make an audiobook of Part 1. And in addition, so the audiobook I think is going to be free, and I haven't decided this stuff yet, so don't take it as promises, but the audiobook I think is going to be free. There's going to be a director's quotes. I gotta say quotes so that people don't think I'm too serious about this. A director's commentary version where I kind of intersplice in between each chapter with here's what I was thinking doing this, all that sort of stuff. Here's some interesting things that you might not have noticed. All that sort of stuff. That one's going to be exclusive to Stukery Premium subscribers. So you can only get that if you are an Stukery Premium subscriber. But that's stuff that's in the pipeline. So I haven't started on any of that stuff yet. And of course, still with writing Baby Bird, with winding down Apollo, with his JBR courses, with streaming. We'll see how much of that I actually get done. But those are things that I'm planning to do that are in the pipeline currently. So that's all that stuff done. Remote chance / possibility. So I guess really all of this is a remote chance / possibility when you think about it. But I guess I'll keep going on this. One thing that I've considered doing is retiring the blog. I wrote this a little bit early on in the year as a potential thought, but I think more so what I mean is not dedicating myself anymore to an every Monday schedule for the blog, more just anytime I think that I have something interesting to say in blog format to write it there. The thing about the blog is that if I'm doing stuff like Monday Morning Coffee and I'm able to do it consistently, and if I have an audience for it, there's not really too much of a reason to keep that blog going regularly. There's still a reason to have the blog, but there's not really as much of a reason anymore to keep it every single week. But I don't know how I feel about that one. I might still be writing stuff pretty consistently, and I still need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do about all that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Another thing that I considered is another actually real podcast, because yes, this is technically not a real podcast. This is just a stream that I do every Monday. I would like to do a podcast with actual people, but I don't know any people. So that's why this is a remote chance. Because if it's just me, then it's just this show. Who fucking cares, man? I don't know. Maybe, but who cares? Another thing is a video game release. So there are video games in the pipeline in addition to stories, but like I said, main focus is going to be Baby Bird and Boys and Girls Part 2. So I don't think this one's going to happen. I don't see this one happening. But that's why there were remote chance / possibilities. Anyway, if you were watching the VOD, thank you for watching. I'm now going to go on to my favorite stuff of 2022. It'll be a different video if you are watching the clipped VOD, but if you're on the stream, stay with me here as we move on to the next segment. Gotta pause so that I know where to cut it. Okay, well, let's keep going. Now those VOD losers are gone. Let's go here. Well, you could also just watch the like the VOD, right? Like the VOD, like the one where it's like everybody. What am I trying to say here? The one that's like the 2-hour one that's just like a raw recording of this live stream. I'm not referring to those VOD watchers, of course, because those people are very important, obviously. I'm talking about the people who this has to be the what's. It's the table, because when I move my hands back and forth, I can hear it shaking and squeaking. Wait, hold on. Shh. This is the table. Okay, I'll keep my hands off the table. At least I'm trying. All right, so starting the next VOD, and this one's for the favorites of 2022. This is mostly for the website. I'm gonna stretch it out again, even though it looks kind of ugly. Speaking of ugly, why is it like this? Why is there so much empty space? What? Can I stop this? Oh, I gotta go to here. Yeah. And now it's not as weird. Okay, perfect. It's gotta be the full base. All right. Another VOD cut. We will start at 52:30. And I'm going to once again fill this with silence so that I know when to start this. Hello, welcome back. This is Favorites of 2022, or I guess not necessarily welcome back to anybody who happens to be watching a live stream or the live stream VOD. This is now me talking about my favorites of 2022. So the rules here is that I have this big Notion database. This is publicly available. If you go to my website, astukery.com, there will be in the headline up at the top right, one of the things says backlog. If you click that, you can see this exact view, as well as all the other things I have rated highly or poorly across the years. It's perfectly public, perfectly available. But in this one, we will be talking about my favorites of 2022. This is a thing that I have done for a couple of years now. I want to say we started in either 2018 or 2019, me going through all the things that I enjoyed in the year. The rules for this, it is not stuff that has been released in 2022 necessarily. It's just the stuff that I have finished in 2022, because I am not a review website. I do not play or view or listen to every single damn thing that comes out in 2022. So there will be some stuff that came out this year, but most of it will be stuff that came out in other years. And I'm going to go down these pretty rapid fire because the stream kind of went long with State of the Union. So I am just going to go down this list. And my favorites, it's anything 8 out of 10 or above is the rule that I make for that. So 8 out of 10 or above. Like I said, this is public, so you can see the titles here. You can see my status, have I finished them, the date finished, the rating, the platform, which is kind of something that I don't really use anymore. Same with priority. But the types are all here, so you can see what they are. And we are going to go down the list, rapid fire, starting from the very tippy top, the best stuff, and then going into the pretty good stuff. So the first thing I finished this year, well, hold on, not the first thing I finished this year, but one of the first favorite of this year, I guess you could say, is Dog's Prelude. This is the manga by, God, I don't remember what his name is. Mirao? Mirow. Don't remember what his first name is, or I guess his last name because it's Japanese. He made the Ruby manga, which I have heard from Ruby fans is supposed to be better than the anime, but I don't know anything about Ruby. But his main work, his main actual featured OC work is Dogs. It is sort of under the radar, but I found it because this year I was looking into getting into more manga stuff. And one of the things that came out with Dogs, and I love this one. The first chapter is incredible. The pacing is absolutely perfect, which is so weird because one of the reasons I never got into manga is because the pacing is so awful in most of these. It's really, really just boring and terrible and prodding for the first like couple of chapters, but this one goes right into it. And of course, this one is special because this is actually a list of shorts. So it was short stories, and then this is the prelude, of course, and then it goes into Dogs, Blood, and Carnage, which is the actual story. But these are like the prelude chapters of all the different party members, per se. And this one, every single one, is incredible. And I can't wait to get into the series proper, which I have not done yet, but I will be doing in 2023. Next one on here is a rare 2022 one. I know. Some of these are 2022, believe it or not. Some of these came out, I think one of these came out like 2 days ago. So there are things that came out in 2022. The next one is Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So I talked a lot about this show and a lot about Cyberpunk in general in both this show, Monday Morning Coffee, previous episode of this, as well as on my blog. If you search Cyberpunk, I do a lot of my opinions on Edgerunners, specifically how good Edgerunners is and how it really gives kind of an optimistic view of West and East working together. And the case here, it's CD Projekt Red, which is of course a Polish company working with Trigger, which is a Japanese studio, showing how beautiful it is when these two cultures work together, because there's a lot of good stuff in anime. There's a lot of bad stuff in anime. There's a lot of good stuff in Western writing. There's a lot of bad stuff in Western writing. And if you can focus on the stuff that's just really good between the two of them, you make a really nice narrative. And that's kind of what Edgerunners is. But I spent a lot of time focusing on that, so I'm not going to focus too much on it right here. Red Dead Redemption 2. I finished that this year. This year. That game is incredible. If way too long. That game is way, way too long. That is really my only criticism of it. Everything about that game is fantastic. There are so many beautifully cinematic moments, and I was really late to this train because, I'm a big Grand Theft Auto fan, but I'm not necessarily a big Red Dead fan. I played Red Dead Redemption number 1. I thought it was okay at best. But Red Dead Redemption 2, I decided to finally play because, it's been a couple of years. The game's now cheap enough, so I bought it. It's incredible, absolutely fantastic, but holy shit, does that game go on forever. I actually hit the credits, was like, oh wow, this is so great. This is a great way to end it. And then immediately got put into Epilogue Part 1, and I was like, no, we're not doing this. I'm not playing this game for another 40 hours. The base game is already like 60, 70 hours. I'm not continuing to play this shit. So that's really the only criticism I have, is that there's a little bit too much of it. But the stuff, just a lot of padding, I should say. But the stuff that isn't padding, that is just raw story content, is really, really good. And of course, it's the Rage engine, so it's Grand Theft Auto stuff. So in terms of gameplay, also very, very solid. The next one on this list is a Sonic R original soundtrack. This was not finished in 2022. That's a fucking lie. I've been listening to these bangers for the past 10 years, goddammit. Holy shit, the Sonic R soundtrack is so goddamn good. It is the pinnacle of the Sonic franchise. Even though that game is dog shit, that soundtrack is fantastic. But I did not finish it in 2022, which makes me wonder why it's on this list, but it was very good. The next one I did finish. The next is a album that I did finish this year Velocity Design Comfort by Sweet Trip. I think this was recommended by a friend of mine, though honestly I don't remember which friend. I listened to this song. I keep wanting to say soundtrack because Sonic R was a soundtrack. This is not a soundtrack. This is just a normal ass album. It's kind of noise poppy, I guess you could say, but it came out in the '90s. Yeah, every song on this track is a banger, banger after banger. Really, really good. So that's that on that. Would recommend it if you are looking for new music and you haven't heard of this one, because I think this one actually might be a little underground. I hadn't heard of it beforehand. I think it's one of the top rated albums for that year, but I hadn't heard of it. So that one's very good, and of course I feel like it probably influences a lot of the music that comes out today. Super Meat Boy, this another one that's kind of misleading because I got to like the very end of Super Meat Boy back in like 2012, and then I just never finished The Last World. So this year I finished The Last World. So that's kind of misleading to say that it was my favorite of 2022, but it is my favorite of 2022 because I finished it in 2022. So that's the rules. Best 2D platformer of all time, arguably. I can't really think of anything that would be better. Super Mario World isn't better. Super Mario 3 isn't better. I don't know what else would be a comparison point. But yeah, it's phenomenal. It's easily the best platformer game I've ever played. It will tell you that the game is made for gamepad. That's a fucking lie. It actually plays way better on keyboard and mouse, and well, not mouse because you don't use the mouse, but it plays way better on keyboard. And I don't know if I'm biased because I played the original Meat Boy, the Flash game, and that one you could only use the keyboard, and so I got really good at that. And maybe I'm just biased because that's the way I originally played it, but it'll tell you that you need a gamepad. You don't need a gamepad. You do not need a gamepad to play that game optimally. I think the Last World I beat all with just keyboard, but I don't remember exactly if that's true. Dishonored next. I played a decent amount of Dishonored beforehand, but this one I did play the majority of it this year. Really good stealth game. Really good non-linear game, I guess I should say. It's more kind of akin to like Deus Ex and that sort of stuff. It is an Arcane Studios game, so it does harken back to that non-linear RPG sort of formula. Very, very good. There's a lot of ways to beat all different levels. It's exactly what you would expect from a good non-linear RPG, and every good non-linear RPG is going to be like at least a 9 out of 10. So that makes sense. The next movie on here is The Matrix. Did I really finish it this year? I don't think that's true. This might be an accident. Can I check that? Was that this year, or did I put that in on accident? No, I rewatched this in 2019. I was gonna say that was a rewatch too. I've seen this years ago. Okay, some of them fall through the cracks. Listen, I started this new backlog setup this year, so some of these are kind of off. And I rewatched this movie while playing. I don't know why I remember this, but I rewatched this movie while playing The Outer Worlds, which is another great game. I think The Outer Worlds got on my 2019 list, but The Matrix did not get on my 2019 list, which makes sense because it was a rewatch. But anyway, that one didn't count. I apologize. Is there any more ones that I might need to get rid of? Oh, this is the book Fellowship of the Ring. Okay, that actually makes sense. No, I think the rest of these are legitimate. Okay, that's good. Let's keep going on the list. Where were we? Vampire Survivors. That's the big flavor of the month game. I really enjoyed it. It's very, very simple, but I feel like the difficulty scaling on that is beautiful because it's all self-imposed difficulty, and you can progress a lot more easily if you put the difficulty up, or you can make like more money, more XP, all that sort of stuff by putting the difficulty way up, or just give yourself a challenge. But if you're trying to farm for achievements quickly, because of course the game is entirely achievement based in terms of its unlockables, you can scale the difficulty way down and make it easier for you to achieve all that stuff and unlock all that stuff, which I feel like is a pretty nice way of doing it. So yeah, I put a shit ton of hours in this, like 30, 40 hours into a very bare bones basic game, which means that game is very good. Just putting that out there. Fuwan no Tane, I probably butchered that, holy shit. This is a collection of short stories. This is another manga pick because like I said, I went on my manga binge this year. I actually like this a lot more than most of the Junji Ito stuff I've read. They are very short stories, very to the point, usually punctuating on a piece of very good horror art. Some of these are genuinely really freaky, especially the earlier ones. But I think the whole thing is very good. And there's actually another one from what I have heard, which I'm very interested in reading as well next year. Mega Hex. This is a comic book, graphic novel sort of thing. I've gotten recommended this a lot, and it was very good. Not too much to say about it, but this one is of course Western American, but it was pretty good, and I enjoyed it. And it's a comedy, yada yada. The Cat Returns. This is a Studio Ghibli book. Sorry, a Studio Ghibli movie. I guess I should mention Whisper of the Heart first because The Cat Returns is technically a sequel, a soft sequel to Whisper of the Heart. I would actually say if I had to pick one that I enjoyed more, it's probably Whisper of the Heart. That's the one with the lo-fi girl. And that's where the lo-fi girl's from. And then the Cat Returns is the sequel, and that one's also pretty good. The Fellowship of the Ring. This is the book, not the movie, which I've seen probably 20 times at this point. But I finally sat down and read the books. Really enjoyed Fellowship of the Ring. Unfortunately, did not enjoy Two Towers or Return of the King that much, which is why they did not make this list. But the first one, Fellowship of the Ring, I felt was excellently paced, which is kind of sad because the reason that the other two weren't as good was because they were not well paced. They had a really weird setup where one part of the party was the first half of the book and the other part of the party was the second part of the book. But if you don't like one of the parties, which I don't give a shit about Frodo, the entire second half of the book then is just a drain. Whereas Fellowship of the Ring, it went between them pretty well, and so I felt like it made a lot more sense. My Dinner with Andre. This movie is kind of weird because it's basically a scripted podcast between two people who are famous in the theater industry. It's not I don't think it's like their real opinions or like real personalities or anything. It's all kind of scripted, and it's designed to give this sort of like philosophical take across the entire thing. But it was really good. And I really wanted to see this movie because at this point, I started seeing movies more as podcasts anyway, where I would just play a game or something in the background while a movie was playing, which I know is not the best way of doing that, but I enjoyed it. That's what matters. Such Art, Genius Art Simulator. Love this game. I played the shit out of the demo, and I believe it came out this year. I believe this is the Never 2022 one. I think this is the Never 2022 one. It is literally a art simulator. So you get a canvas and you make art, but you are like a character in a world. So it's not like, using MS Paint. It's like you are in a studio and you have to like get the brushes and put paint on the brushes and then color in the canvas. It's a really fun, cute game, and I enjoyed it a lot. Going into another album, this is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. His first album in a couple of years. This one I think might be his best album, but I am cognizant in saying that it might be my favorite album of his because it's the one where it doesn't talk about black culture at all, so it's more relatable for me. That might be what it is. I'm just keeping it honest. No, jokes aside, this album's incredible. It is more of a it centers a lot about his sort of therapy, which is where he's kind of gone for the past couple of years. That's why he's been completely radio silent. It's because he was in therapy and he was struggling with his own mentality. And this album is kind of a step-by-step look at all that sort of process. So it's kind of similar to his other albums in a way that's very autobiographical and this very narrative concept. But this time it's more relatable as a white person. Because we all been through therapy, dog. We all get that shit. Come on, makes sense. Whisper of the Heart, I already talked about. Very good. No Thank You by Little Sims. This came out as of recording like 3 days ago. Because I listened to this. No, I might have listened to this the day after it came out. So it came out on December the 15th, which would have been 5 days ago. Or is it still 4 days? I don't know. Whatever. It came out very recently, is what I'm saying. And it just made the list. Just made the list. It's Never Little Sims album. It's more of her last one. So Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, I think is the name of her second album. It's a lot closer to that one, but kind of cleaned up. And there's a lot more of gray area kind of in it. But it's still mostly, it's a good mix of both albums. And so I really enjoyed this one. I don't have too many constructed thoughts on it because, like I said, it came out just a couple of days ago. But it's very good. Going back to books, this list is very... I don't know if I want to keep this formula of going back and forth between different medias, media, like books, video games, whatever, or if I want to make it more organized next time. I kind of like this. I kind of like this formula. I like kind of going down the list as it is. Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think this is one of... No, there's actually 3 nonfiction books that are on here. But this is the only one that's... Well, I don't know. I shouldn't talk without knowing or looking at the other books that are on here. Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think this is easily the best self-help book I have read because it is actually helping you and is actually giving you practical, sensible advice. It is not doing some weird, grandiose, like, follow your dreams, invest your money, master the game. That Tony Robbins shit. I don't need that in my life. This one is like, yeah, you should do habits because of this, this, and this. Here's a way to set up your habits, make them very easy for you to do, guide yourself through them, use these like very basic psychological hits, and you can kind of do all these cool things that you probably wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Like, it's very practical, very kind of engineering focused, which I very much enjoy, and I have espoused many times on both the blog and on this show the ideas of Atomic Habits because I enjoy them, and I think they work. Which I can't say for 99% of the other books of this category that I have read, including Tony Robbins. But anyway, next movie on here, Rear Window. These are now we're back to movies. Shit, I keep switching between them. Rear Window, I watched 2 Alfred Hitchcock movies this year. I think they were Vertigo and Rear Window. I really did not like Vertigo, but I did love Rear Window. I think the way that this movie was set up was really cool because it all took place in the apartment, spying on the other apartments. I feel like that sort of setup, that simple setup with very simple set of characters, was really excellent, which was funny because I don't think Vertigo did that at all, and that's probably the reason why it wasn't as good. Dead Space, I finished. That was one of the streams for this year, was me playing a little bit of Dead Space. I enjoyed it. Pretty decent third-person shooter. Wouldn't really call it a horror game. There's not too much horror there. But in terms of the third-person shooter stuff, I thought it was pretty good. Should have kept focused on the laser cutter. I did not know that even though the game gives you like 20 different weapons, you're actually really only supposed to use the plasma cutter, which is the very first gun you get in the entire game. It's not really a Resident Evil 4 sort of situation where you can kind of pick and choose and decide your best one. But once I figured that out, the game was very enjoyable. So I did appreciate that. I want to make sure I don't start going into the... I know. For you House Flipper fans, I'm sorry, but it just hit the cutoff. I still liked it, but it just hit the cutoff. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1, Phantom Blood. I really like this one, and I'm surprised because I've heard this is the worst one. So that's Part 2. I think Part 2, people say, is the worst one. This series seems to only get better from what I've heard. But of course, I had to start from the beginning. This is part of my manga journey, as I mentioned before. And Part 1 was great. So if the upper parts are supposed to be even better, I'm looking forward to those. I know I don't necessarily need to read these all in order. I know they're different stories each time, but I'll read part 2 because I can read part 2. Portal, this one's a classic. I never beat it though. So this is another one kind of like Super Meat Boy where I'm just trying to finish it up. And I finished it. Very short game actually, which I didn't know. It's only 3 hours long. So I could have really beaten this at any time, and it wasn't particularly hard either. Because I think the thing that scares me about puzzle games is that I'm just not very good at puzzles, and I kind of hate puzzles, especially the linear puzzles. I'm a little bit better at physics puzzles, so games like Teardown, where they're very physics-based, and there's a lot of different situations in which you can hit these problems. Portal, of course, is made by Valve, who have made a very good physics engine, but the puzzles in Portal are not physics-based for the most part. They do have linear solutions, but it's not super hard. I was able to figure it out pretty easily. So now I'm playing Portal 2, and we'll see how good I am at that one. That one's supposed to be way longer, I think. Super Mario Bros. Yes, that's right. The Super Mario Bros. The first Super Mario Bros. Game. Nothing special, no remake, just Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. I beat it. I did use a lot of save states, but I did see the end. I used to really not like Super Mario Bros. Or the 2D platform, the 2D Marios in general. But after playing this, I actually kind of grew to appreciate them. And I do intend on beating the other ones, kind of using the same sort of save state formula. But I do realize that I kind of enjoy these. So now I'm going to start playing them. Are they better than Super Meat Boy? No. Super Meat Boy is still the best there ever was. But these ones are actually pretty good. No Man's Sky. Now, can you believe it? Back when this game first launched in 2016, I gave it a 3 out of 10. That video is still something that you are able to watch. And boy, when this game launched, it really was a 3 out of 10. It was garbage. You couldn't do anything in that game. It was very, very boring. It was like you would mine stuff, but mining wouldn't even like give you anything. And you would just like go to these barren-ass, boring worlds. No Man's Sky in 2022 is definitely an improvement. People weren't lying by putting all those videos and blog posts up about how No Man's Sky is a miracle in terms of iterative game design, in terms of sort of early access, even though it technically wasn't an early access game. The ability to continuously improve on a game over time. Still gets very major updates every 6 months. And it is quite enjoyable now. When you mine into the earth, it gives you stuff, and you can use that stuff to craft things and to sell and to make a base. You can make many bases on a planet. You can completely occupy one planet. You can make a little outpost on other planets. All this stuff was not in the game when I gave it a 3 out of 10. So I do have to appreciate that. They did improve this game, just like how people said. So congratulations on that part. Boys Club by Matt Fury. This, like Mega Hex, is a Western comic, Western graphic novel. This one, I think it started as a web series, so as a web comic, and then they published it. I don't think Mega Hex was ever a web series. I think Mega Hex started as a comic, but I don't know that for sure. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, though. Boys Club, also very enjoyable. Didn't like it as much as Mega Hex, more because Boys Club is just kind of a set of like, oh, what's the grossest thing we can put into a comic, whereas Mega Hex was, what's the grossest thing we could put into a comic, but also what if we added this as a narrative? Like, it feels almost like like an evolution of Boys Club. So I didn't like Boys Club as much, but I did still enjoy it. I did appreciate that one. Next one, God, we're just slamming down this list, all right? We're slamming down it. Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, I think is his name. This is a nonfiction book about Theranos, I believe is what's called, the fake fraudulent blood company. This one is, it's kind of it's a journalist book, so it's like, in terms of writing. But the story itself is pretty crazy. And so I thought it was decent. I thought, just based on the story, I thought it was pretty good. I think we're getting to the 8 out of 10s now, right? Yeah, we're getting out to the 8 out of 10s. The Drifting Classroom, Volume 1. I originally did not anticipate to read any more than Volume 1, but I actually like this enough that I'll probably keep going with Volume 2. In fact, I think I started Volume 2 very briefly. So, I am interested in continuing to go on this. This is another horror manga, but this one is actually continuous. So Fuan Notane and Junji Ito are mostly kind of one-offs. This one is like a continuous overtime story that develops. And there's another manga that I'm reading right now that's kind of similar to Drifting Classroom called, I want to say, Dragon's Head. That one I actually enjoy more than Drifting Classroom, but I'm still very early on in that one, so I haven't finished it, which is why it's not on this list. But that one's also very good, so I'll give that one a shout out. The French Connection, I want to get rid of this flavor text here. While I'm here. The French Connection. I forget who made this movie. Isn't this made by the same guy who made The Exorcist? I don't know if I'm off on that. But this movie is really cool. Crime thriller. Pretty straightforward by the books, but still very much enjoyable. Kafka on the Shore by Murakami. This is my first Murakami book that I've read. It was pretty decent. Pretty enjoyable. I actually feel like because I've read a couple of Japanese novels, and I feel like a lot of them, the English translation is just deadpan and boring, and part of that is kind of just because that's the way that Japanese authors write, but Murakami's writing is a lot more engaging and kind of a lot more westernized, I guess you could say, and I don't think that's translation, I think that's just the way that he types, or the way he writes, but I guess he is typing, because he's typing on whatever. From Hell by Alan Moore. Can I get the highlight? Oh wait, actually, can I highlight like this? Okay, maybe this is easier. Even though we're on the last three. From Hell by Alan Moore, another Western graphic novel, but unlike the other ones, this is a drama. It is not a comedy. I love Watchmen. I think Watchmen is absolutely fantastic. It marked #1 on my favorites, I want to say in 2019. I read The Killing Joke. That one was okay. And then From Hell was kind of in the middle there. So I would say it's better than The Killing Joke, but still not as good as Watchmen, in my personal opinion. Virgin Suicide's a highly underrated movie. I've only ever seen people make fun of this movie. I did notice it has good ratings, but mostly people... The only real dialogue that I've seen about this movie that people... the commentary that people make is that OVO 40 is in it. The Drake producer, the guy who produces all Drake's music, and he's in it. He is a character. I spotted him. He's in there. But this whole movie is just really fantastic. And the ending is so cool, and there's like so much stuff. Like, this is a real it's sort of art housey, but it's in a way that you can really appreciate and enjoy it. I think even if you're kind of like a layman. There's nothing here that's like super special, but it's very, very enjoyable. Last two, I'm going to combine these because I got to get this show on the road. The Creative Gene by Hideo Kojima. This isn't really a book that he released this year. It kind of went under the radar, which I was surprised about. I just happened to find it in a bookstore, and I bought it, like not knowing that he had written a book. And the reason is because it's mostly reprints. So all of his old book reviews, specifically, I think, because he's really into books recently. He says he's been since he was born, been really into books, which is very funny because I think half the books he put on here are like either manga or art books. But one of them is just the book adaptation of Metal Gear Solid 4. So I still don't think he reads. I mean, he watches a lot of movies and he gets a lot of good ideas from those movies. I'm not trying to make fun of him, but I don't think reading is his strong suit. But it's all of his book reviews, and the book reviews are very enjoyable. When he does review books, they are very enjoyable. So I don't want to shit on it. It actually is a very good read, very comfy read. If you just want something simple, something nice, you can look at Kojima's old reviews of books. I think they're all pretty interesting. Last book on here, Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. This is the second book that I've read of him. This is actually supposed to be the first one. I read The Black Swan first, but you're actually supposed to read Fooled by Randomness and then The Black Swan. I don't think this is as good as the Black Swan. I've seen a couple of people say they enjoy Fooled by Randomness more than Black Swan. Maybe it's just bias of, first pick, first read. But I still enjoy it. I enjoy all of Nassim Taleb's writing, which is why I bought the whole collection. Yeah, I'm one of those assholes who own Inserto in its entirety and just have it proudly displayed on his shelf. Because even though he is a pretentious son of a bitch, I do enjoy his stuff. So that is all of that. Those are my favorite. How many favorites in total? So as I see down there, it says I finished 86 things in 2022. And of my favorites, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 things that were on the favorites list. That's a pretty good number. That's like what? A fourth? About? So, yeah, I enjoyed all that stuff. And with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we have finished the State of the Union and we have finished the favorites of 2022. Surprisingly, shockingly, even though this is the longest episode of Monday Morning Coffee I've ever done, I have not actually finished a copy. But you know what? I'm going to give myself a special break here because I've been talking the whole damn time. I haven't had a chance to sip on this coffee. So I have not been sandbagging at all. This has all been a real legitimate show. Anyway, very, very quick. The sky is getting dark. I can see it. The lighting is getting worse. But real quick, let me do some more announcements. I can cut this part out of the VOD in case for myself when I'm editing this VOD. You don't need this part in here. I will not be streaming for a while. I will be gone. So we will not see a stream on Friday. You will not see a stream next Monday, next Friday, or the following Monday or Friday. But I will be back that Monday, January sometime. The Monday after January the 6th, whenever that is. Holy shit, that light looks way scarier when I look at it like this. It looks terrifying. Okay, I got to end the stream. Thank you, everybody, for hopping in. Thank you, VOD watchers, etc., etc. But I will see you in the next one, which won't be for a while, but, I'll be hanging around. So